What is interesting about In Search of the Miraculous is a guy who says, I don't need you to love me. That'll happen eventually. I don't need you to trust me. Well, actually, he doesn't say that because you need actually all those things. So let me correct myself. He inspires you. He gives you all these ideas that you can become, but that's 10 years down the line. Now, how do you make the ideal real? Well, first I need to tell you what your flaws are. And every time, for example, you go to him, he's not going to tell you, oh, you're so great. You're pathetic. Every single day, he makes you feel really small, really bad, really incompetent. And yet, because there is something about Gurdjieff, you can't leave him. And most often, you're engaged in building things, doing gardening, building a room, building a house, going to fancy dinners, and having conversations with people, doing exercises that are really quite confusing and rigorous to the body. So what you have is a man who understands human biology, human psychology, human society, human culture, and he has come to also realize that most of the things you believe in and have faith in are in fact obstacles to your growth. Now, for a man, for a teacher to become both an idealist as well as a realist, that teacher must know the value of what he has or she has. And that teacher must also know the value of his or her time and energy. And that teacher must choose students very, very, very carefully. Because remember, you may be a great mechanic, but you may not be at a position in life where you can spend 10 hours a day on a car. That stage for you is past. Now you're looking for a car that maybe has tiny issues, that only requires maybe 2 hours of your time and energy. And that is what you will find in Search of the Miraculous. A guy who doesn't care about how you think about yourself, how you think about religion or philosophy or life. It's his way only. And though you're there and just your presence at his shop is an expression of idealism, for you to get to that particular point, you need to be beaten up. And he does that really, really, really well. It's a story that just has never left me. It's in one of those books written by J.G. Bennett, one of his students who lived to be almost 100. And he has about, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 books out there. He says one day this woman comes to Gurdjieff and says, I've listened to you, I'd like to be your student. He says, fine, that's great. I'm your teacher then. If you want to be my student, I'll accept you. And he places in front of her a bowl of ice cream, chocolate. And he says to her, have you ever had mustard with ice cream? She says, mustard? Oh, heavens, no. I've never heard anyone having mustard with their ice cream. Oh, it's beautiful. You should really, really try it. And so she goes into the kitchen, grabs a bucket of mustard and pours it on the chocolate ice cream. And Gurdjieff sees all of this. And then he goes to her and says, you need to leave the grounds. You suck as a human being. Why? I did exactly as you told me. Yeah, it's because you have no common sense. Who the hell would pour mustard on ice cream? And you realize this is a man who doesn't care about you simply being fully obedient. You need to have common sense. You need to be a rational being. Use your reasoning abilities a little. Now, we don't like people who are realists. We don't like someone like Diogenes the cynic. We don't like someone like the Buddha. Buddha in theory is great. Buddhism in theory is great. It's just not a realistic way to live life. Jesus as an ideal teacher is great. As a realist, no. Imagine the rich young man in the New Testament. It's a beautiful story. It's no different than the story of Abraham. That if you want to prove yourself to me, sacrifice the thing that's most valuable to you. Your son, either Isaac or Ishmael. What you have in the rich young man is, the guy has good parents. That's the first thing that you need. Have good parents. So you don't fantasize about how would it feel if I had a great father, a great mother, a great this or a great dad. You need to have graduated from that. And then have lots of power in society. So you're not like Donald Trump, always lusting after something you've never had before. And by the time you have that power, and by the time you're tamed enough to know what to do with all that power so you don't destroy people, that takes a long time. And by the time you become cooked, proficient in knowing how to use that power well, man, you've destroyed an entire country. Before the presence of Donald Trump as the president, sure, okay, I don't like Middle Easterners, and I don't like African Americans, and I don't like Mexicans or Chinese or white people, all those things. But at least I would keep them to myself. Now, everybody just comes out and tells you exactly how they feel about you. Something that the US has been able to repress for at least 40 years. And there is nothing wrong with repression. And so you need to have lots of money to realize that money, yes, it buys a lot of things. It just doesn't buy happiness, whatever that may mean for you. And so he goes to Jesus and says, listen, I've listened to your sermons and they're beautiful. You keep talking about the kingdom of heaven. I want it because I try to buy it with money, it's not working. I try to buy it with helping the homeless, it's not working. And you keep telling us that the kingdom of heaven can only be accessed through you. So give it to me. And he looks at him and says, okay, well, you've listened to my idealistic philosophy of kingdom of God. Now let me be a realist. Go and sell everything you have. The guy says, that's okay. I can go sell my car and my house and my wife and my kids, and then I will come follow you. He says, no. You need to give away your money. All of it? Yes. Why? Well, I'm a monogamist. It's either my way or the highway. Now, one of the things about money is that it gives you security about your future, that you have faith in your money, and that faith gives you money to have access to the future. And whenever you have money, and whenever you have access to your future, you're in charge. Your faith is not in Yahweh, your faith is in money. And what Jesus says, if you really want the kingdom of God, this is what you ought to do. I want to make sure you have no support system at all, that just in case you are tempted to leave me, you say, well, go away. Do what? Have faith in the unknown. Have faith in the mystery. Have faith in a man that you hardly know. Because money will give you access to future. Me, Jesus Christ, will give you access to nothing. You're nourished by faith alone. And the guy says, man, that's just too much. I can't do it. Now, the flip side is a story that is not true, but nevertheless, let's just say the story actually took place, which is the story of Mary Magdalene. As tradition has it, she's a prostitute, and by chance, all of a sudden this conflict grows inside her and she says, maybe I should change profession. I just don't know what to do. That's Mary in her idealistic form. I want to be a nun, but right now I'm only a prostitute. She listens to a sermon. That's all it takes. Maybe two, maybe three, who knows? And that sermon is so powerful, and the image and the presence of Jesus is so powerful, or Socrates, or Malcolm X. And she leaves her profession altogether. Now, when you change your profession, it means, well, you no longer have access to money. How? If for the past 20 years, that's how you make your money, now you can't. And again, if the Gospels, just one of them perhaps, if they have any accuracy to them, is that when Jesus is dead and when her mother and a few disciples go to kind of just look at him, Mary is behind them and she says, I'm family as well. And the mother looks at Mary and says, yeah, she is. Now, that is realism. That something about Jesus had the power to turn something that was imaginary into something profoundly real. I don't know how you make a Plato. I don't know how you make someone ethical, moral. I don't know how you make someone reflective. I think people, because of pride and lust and greed, I think we have a tendency of assuming a good host of things about ourselves. You read a couple of books and you go to gatherings and you spit out these beautiful statements or words or ideas, and people say, oh wow, you must know a few things. But the truth is you don't know anything. I always say, if you want to know how things usually work, if you want to change anything about yourself, read the book of Job 1,000 times. Not only is God an idealist, not only is Job an idealist, but it takes the cunningness and the wisdom, the insight, the intuitive of Satan to know that it's good that you think certain things about yourself, but let me put those things into action. Let me bring them down to life. And then you can see for yourself how much your worth really is. All of us in this class, if you've been in a relationship, you don't walk into a relationship knowing full well you're going to walk out, unless you just have a history. But if this is your first or second or third relationship, and you're like 25, 26, there's always going to be this hope that it's going to work. No one enters into a marriage in hopes of a divorce. And then you realize, well, life is a realist beast. And sure, yeah, you've been Stoic, you've read a good amount of Stoicism, you've in fact been a Buddhist and a Christian, you've been like a buffet of all these ideas for all these years. And yeah, you go on a stage and you talk this and you talk that, and now there is your companion, and now there are your kids, and now there your parents are getting sick and dying and they need help, but you know where to be found. And you realize, yeah, you're only good in thought, but not action.